is going on, everybody? Welcome in to the North End Podcast, episode 238. My name is Zach Graham, your host here in the North End, joined, as always, by my good buddy. He's on record as my best friend. His name is Ian Michaud, and we call him E, sitting here on a Sunday, rainy, Austin, Texas, coming off our first ever full-on postponement. The match against LAFC about 3 hours before kickoff yesterday, being ruled out and moved to a later date. So we will talk about that. We will, of course, dive into a full preview. Now, Open Cup quarterfinals is next up here for Austin FC. And, of course, talking last business day and some nonsense. But before we get into all of that, I will start by asking you, as I always do, how you feeling, my friend?
Oh, I'm all right, man. Definitely a little bummed that we got that full postponement, but there's obviously much more important things than soccer games going on in Texas right now. So can't be too upset about that, but excited for this Open Cup matchup coming up here. This is going to be fun. San Jose is a exciting, fun team, and you have an opportunity to go ahead and advance in this tournament. So I'm amped up for that and ready to get into that and potentially talk a little more Palacios here and see what's going on with that situation, but ready to do it, man.
Yeah, man, things are still obviously happening. The rumor mill churning, the games not stopping. So before we get into the rest of episode 238 here, just want to remind you all listening or watching on our YouTube channel that you can support the show financially by downloading the audio versions of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts. So Apple, Spotify, wherever you're getting those pods, you can toggle on auto downloads for the North End Podcast, and that will support us going forward. And you won't have to think about it again. You can go the extra mile for us, rate and review the show wherever you get your podcasts. And if you are watching on the YouTube channel, hitting that subscribe button does help us grow the show. And you can hit the notification bell to know when a live stream pops up or a new episode goes live. And of course, here on episode 238, hit the thumbs up, like the video, help us battle the YouTube algorithm overlords, atone for your sins, wash yourselves clean in the waters of the North End. So I guess quick talk about the postponement here, because the team released this statement saying that, right, it was a decision ultimately made by the league. Major League Soccer announced on Saturday the postponement of the regular season match between Austin and LAFC due to the severe weather impacting the safety of travel in Central Texas, and with guidance from relevant local authorities. In the second part, Austin FC extends their heartfelt sympathy to those who have been impacted by the devastating flooding across Central Texas. And I think the first thing we wanted to do is echo that sentiment, feeling very lucky to not be in one of those dangerous areas from this just pretty fucking crazy weather event here with the rain. That storm, again, we get super nerdy and granular here in the North End at some points. Not weather nerds here. I don't know what you call a storm that just kind of sits over an area like that one did all weekend. But just from me personally, I'll let you say anything if you want to, man. Like, extremely sad to watch this all unfold this weekend. So just wanted to echo those sentiments that the team put out as well. That our thoughts are with those affected, in Kerrville and some of those other areas around the rivers here in Central Texas. Just horrific stuff, man.
Yeah, a tragedy for sure. So, puts things in perspective a little bit, but I'm really sorry that this happened to a bunch of people and people that were impacted and affected by this. It's a tragedy. So absolutely thinking about those folks and hoping that we can get a recovery going here. That will be good.
Yeah, and I believe right before we hit record here on Sunday afternoon, I did see the team post something to their socials that appeared to have resources to donate and to assist in the recovery efforts and supporting those who were adversely affected by the storms this weekend. So we will do our part to try to amplify those things that the team or anybody else in the Austin FC universe is putting out there to help folks recover here. So there are, of course, soccer implications to the postponement. So we can move into that now here. The team, nothing official, right, for when this match, the home leg of this match against LAFC will be played. Looking at, I think it was just one comment that I saw offhand, but also integrating the schedule into our best guess of when this match will be played. I think October 11th is what we're looking at right now, would be my best guesstimate, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term here, because that is the weekend that the league typically takes off. That is the traditional, from what I know of our 4+ years here as Austin fans, international break, second weekend of October. Typically, your penultimate regular season match is the first weekend. You take that international break, and then decision day comes on that third weekend of October. So if October 11th is when this is played, that would be during that international break. We obviously did not have a game scheduled, but because of LAFC's wild second half schedule that we discussed on the preview episode last Wednesday, they actually already have a midweek match scheduled on the 8th of October. So from a scheduling perspective, it could be in Austin's favor here that LAFC would be coming in on shorter rest. And then you also have to factor in the international break itself and the personnel absences that you could have therein. Albania has one World Cup qualifying match during that break, so Izuni is likely gone for Austin FC. Ukraine also has 2 World Cup qualifiers during that break. Maybe Svaktak goes, right? We've seen him be on the reserve roster, I think, during the last 2 windows. It appears that Venezuela is done with their qualifiers by then. So Danny, and Pereira has been kind of on the outside looking into that international roster over the last 6 months or so. But on the flip side, dude, Gabon has 2 World Cup qualifiers as well, which means Denny Bouanga will be gone if we play that match then. So it's not just Austin being impacted by those potential personnel absences. And again, this is we're reckless speculation, I guess. We need a new drop for that. We'll get our audio and video team working on that. But if we do play this match on that Saturday, those are some of the things that you already would be looking ahead to. And look, Denny Bouanga missing for LAFC potentially. I will take that in the vacuum of that competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of implications here with where this game lines up. Like, these teams are going to look different for sure. Before we jumped on here, we're talking about the potential for LAFC adding 2 guys to their DP spot if they move on from Dilrosun get hit.
Dilrosun, right, on loan through the 24th of this month from Club America. So, like, they could send him back, and we talked about Giroud being gone already.
So, and the list of names that could be coming for that team is extensive, and probably way more extensive than we could have ever imagined. So there's a lot that's happening with this. We looked at the table earlier and everything, and was just like, man, if we had played this game and won, you'd be sitting in 6th right now. But we'll see how it all plays out. We'll get the official date and not use the reckless speculation as our guiding star.
Yeah. And, also it shakes up the table because we are going to have a game in hand on the majority of the Western Conference all of a sudden until that match is made up. So just something to look at. We're going to start looking a lot at like points per game for these teams instead of just like raw points to figure out where everybody is at in the table, not just Austin FC. So anything else for you on that post moment? I mean, I was bummed to not be able to see all of our friends and such, but again, much more important things going on this weekend here in Texas.
Yeah, I'm good.
So let's talk a little bit more about that Diego Palacios rumor. I want to say this was Thursday night when this report from Christian Moraes of Territorio MLS, which I think I've seen this outlet's name before. Appears to be a Portuguese outlet that is covering MLS news. Their report, and again, this is translated from Portuguese to English, so certainly still reliant upon the powers of Google Translate. But this report, and I can go ahead and pull it up here on the screen, and you can see, if maybe get a couple zooms here, I do have it translated on the screen for our YouTube viewers. This report is saying that I guess it takes it a step further, right? From what we were discussing on Wednesday afternoon when the first rumor hit. This report on Territorio MLS says that the talks are forwarding to an agreement, and there are a few details left to iron out here. The fact that this report includes information that Corinthians is intending to include a purchase option in the loan, and the teams are ironing out the duration of a loan to be either 6 months right through the end of this MLS season, or a full year all the way to the summer window 2026. That to me is just advances this rumor a little bit in terms of the hierarchy, how I view some of these rumors coming both domestically and internationally. I think that kind of applies to almost any major professional sport. Is once you start to get trade details or contract details reported in the rumor mill, it starts to become a little bit more real.
Yeah.
But I also, before I throw it to you for your thoughts, want to mention, right, I brought up that I thought Diego Palacios had a green card on Wednesday's episode. I have not been able to confirm nor deny that, because I'm looking in different places that are not official, like MLS or LAFC outlets, and I see some that suggest he does. I see some that suggest he doesn't. If Diego Palacios does not have a green card from his time with LAFC, this move makes even less sense than it already did because of the potential positional logjam that it would create at left back. If he's also taking up an international slot, I would personally slide this rumor more towards the doubtful side of things, but I'm also hesitant to do that because this report kind of furthers the initial rumor in terms of the loan talks between the two clubs. So I personally am in rumor purgatory with Palacios right now. Obviously, my thoughts haven't changed on the player if he's healthy. Not considering the roster constraints and salary constraints that come with a move like this. The player itself is a no-brainer addition. But what do you make of all this as we've gotten some more details over the last couple days?
Well, I mean, I think you took what I was going to say right there at the end. That
Sorry.
both you're good. Both sides of this right now are kind of conflicting against one another. Whereas you have some substance where it's like, here's the terms of the agreement potentially, here's the buy-on and all that stuff, which gives this more validity, in my opinion. Then you also have that potential of, but it's not confirmed. Yes, that he doesn't have a green. We just aren't sure at this moment in time.
Correct.
Okay, so that's still maybe not reckless speculation, but some speculation there.
Sure.
And then having that side of it, when you take into account that we already have two left backs under contract right now, it makes it a little bit more interesting. And this was already an interesting move before all this stuff started to come in. And we thought it was a potential domino type of move where you saw this one go first, and that was going to cause a chain reaction that led to some more moves down the road. So even if he doesn't have that green card, I still think that those dominoes could still be in play where it's like, yes, we're either making sure that someone gets a green card, we're moving on from someone who's an international slot right now. I don't know who that would be, given the names that are on that list currently. So this is just something to continue to keep our eye on. My opinion, my stance with the level of player and bringing him in has not changed as well. He's a fantastic talent, and he would be an upgrade over both of the players we have on the roster at that position right now. That's just a point blank period for me, but we'll see how this goes because I do think it requires a bit more finagling with the roster and some tinkering to make this work and make it make some more sense. So we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah, and again, there's also it's not just necessarily jettisoning one of the international slot players. One of those guys could get a green card themselves, right? Which we bring up frequently here when the transfer windows are approaching. So I think this is about all I have on it for me right now. Anything else for you on where the Palacios rumor stands?
No.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move into our preview here. And San Jose, U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal. This is, by chance, our first meeting with San Jose here. So I'm on the preview for our midweek match here. You know what that means. First time seeing San Jose. We're going to get a little history lesson here for any of our new MLS, new Austin FC fans. The Earthquakes, from a head-to-head perspective, are maybe the most chaotic matchup we have, certainly in the Western Conference, in our team's short history. 9 all-time meetings between the two clubs, Austin has just 1 win in those 9 matches. But San Jose only has 2. 6 draws in this historical matchup. And that stat is even more amazing to me when you take into account the fact that over the 9 matches between these two teams, the average total is 4 goals.
Yeah, I'm looking at the scores right now.
4 goals on average. 2/3 of the time we draw.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
wild.
again, like, no matter what happens here, you should always expect chaos between these two teams. The last time we met San Jose was in May of last year, so it's been over a year since these two clubs squared off. That was a 1-1 draw in San Jose. That came a month after the two teams met at Q2 Stadium for one of, I don't think we should call it one of the best wins ever, but the most exciting wins, it is certainly up there. The 4-3 victory for Austin FC, again, their only win in this all-time series. That was, of course, Sebastian Driussi's 101st minute game-winning goal, 4-3 for Austin. In a match that also included, I think, the quickest succession of 3 straight goals for Austin, 3 goals in 6 minutes to go from down 2 to up 3-2. And then Amal Pellegrino, who we'll talk about here in a little bit, scores in front of us to make it 3-3. We get 10 minutes of stoppage, and of course, the rest is history. So if you can't tell, I've been watching highlights of Austin and San Jose matches with my play-by-play there. But going back to the total goals number, man, that is a crazy stat.
That is an absurd stat. And I mean, like I want to talk about that game a little bit too, because it's one of those games and one of those matches where I think, Lord willing, you and I don't go too early in our lives here. We'll be able to talk about, 20 years down the road, remembering that. It's one of those games. It was one of those games. It was like, I was there. It was fucking awesome.
We haven't said this in a long time. I cried.
That's true.
I cried tears of joy.
All right, maybe we won't remember everything 20 years from now because I already forgot about that. But yeah, you definitely cried. That game was incredible, man. It was one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of in regard to like sports matches and contests and everything like that. So that was awesome. But yes, I was looking up at all the scores there, and because like you mentioned with this matchup, these games are always. You don't know. You really just don't know. But I have so many distinct memories. I remember like early start to the franchise here. We're over at Guillermo's and at one of his random places. We had that big ass fucking projector in the backyard and watching the San Jose game. And it's like, it stuck with me because it's like these San Jose games are crazy and they're fun. And like you mentioned, especially with our team and our usual inability to score goals, to be in games where there's 4 combined goals and you have 6 draws is absurd. It's just wild to me. So I'm excited for this game. It should be fun.
Yeah, and so just diving real quick into the history of the Earthquakes franchise, because we are somewhat intertwined in terms of our biggest rivals here in the state of Texas. The Quakes were one of the charter members of MLS back in 1996, but they were originally named the San Jose Clash. They took part in the first ever game in league history, which is a 1-0 Quakes win over DC United. And then they changed that name from the Clash to the Earthquakes prior to the 2000 season. And the Earthquakes name actually came from an NASL club that was active in San Jose from 1974 to 1988. So the Quakes then in the year 2000 didn't take long. Seems like the Quakes name gave them some good luck in the early aughts. They win MLS Cup in 2001. They win MLS Cup in 2003, and then they won the Supporters Shield in 2005. They were ousted, I believe, in the quarterfinals of the playoffs that year, and then the club moved to Houston in 2006. I'll spare you the details on the disputes about finding a new place for the stadium, etc. Of course, we have covered extensively on this program how Houston then took in the Earthquakes, complete rebrand as the Quakes brand stayed in San Jose. When they made that move, there was intention similar to the Browns moving to Baltimore in the NFL, right? And the Browns staying technically in Cleveland until they got an expansion team later. That was the intent here. And so while the Dynamo take the Quakes team and the roster, right, and win MLS Cup in 2006 and in 2007, San Jose got an expansion bid. So the Quakes it was just a 2-year hiatus
Mhm.
here before the Quakes are back and playing in MLS in the 2008 season. So Quakes 2, if you will, which you can say now because their next pro team is the Town and not Quakes 2. So Quakes episode 2, I guess, which with respect to the original club in the 70s, Quakes episode 3, they won the Shield in 2012, and then they were eliminated in the quarterfinals of those playoffs as well. And it's been downhill ever since, dude. Like, they have finished last in the West on 3 occasions over the last 12 seasons, 2014, 2018, and last year. And they've won the wooden spoon in the latter 2. And of course, last year we're very familiar with that because they set what I believe was an MLS record, conceding 78 goals in 34 league games. So, right, the chaos was not necessarily in the Quakes' favor last year, or I should say decidedly not in the Quakes' favor last year. Some of their highest profile names all time, just before we move into the present day. Pat Onstad, who is the current GM of the Dynamo. Landon Donovan, of course, Chris Wondolowski. So the two, did Kai Kamara pass Landon Donovan? I'm not sure. At one point, at least, the top 2 goal scorers in MLS history, both Quakes veterans. Brian Ching, Dwayne De Rosario, names like that, right, from the aughts and the 2010s. This season, hired Bruce Arena as their new head coach, and he brought in basically his entire former team. Some of the names, right? Ian Hart, Mark Anthony Kaye, Dave Romney, Nick Lima, to talk about remembering some guys. All of these guys played for Bruce Arena before, and I think all 4 of those names I just rattled off were actually on the Revs last year with Arena before he was fired. But I think the most important guys that they brought in were in the attack. They brought in Chicho Arango in the trade from Salt Lake, right?
Yep.
Guy who was, before being injured and then suspended last year, probably the MVP frontrunner in the first half of the 2024 season. They also brought in Joseph Martinez. So putting those 2 forwards together, it has paid off. They're scoring like crazy. They are still conceding a decent amount, enough where we should feel like this is a team we should score multiple goals on. But it is a completely revamped and revitalized Quakes team compared to what we saw them put out there on the pitch last year. Currently, they are in 6th place in the West, 28 points, 41 goals for, 33 against through their 21 games. They surpassed last season's point total of 21 on May 28th of this year, just to put a further stamp on how bad their wooden spoon season was in 2024. In terms of their style of play, still very aggressive offensively, and that has led San Jose to 3rd in MLS in terms of goals per game. They're bottom 3rd in the league in terms of goals allowed per game. So again, hyping on the theme, the chaos remains. It's just going more San Jose's way this year. Their XG is tops in the league so far, but they are 5th in expected goals against. Unsurprisingly, with those numbers I just rattled off, they're tops in big chances created, 2nd in accurate crosses, 3rd, I believe, in touches in the opponent's penalty area, and 3rd in corner kicks. And that accurate crosses number, that's the Christian Espinoza effect, man. Like,
Yeah.
I think he is one of the most underrated players in the league. Every time we see him play at Q2 Stadium, there's at least one of those crosses coming from his traditional right side that he puts in there, and we're just like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, goddamn, that was a nice play. And I think they scored one of their goals off a Espinoza cross last year at the Q.
They definitely did. That's where it starts for me. And as you mentioned, he's really like criminally underrated throughout the league, in my opinion. I think he's in the MVP conversation, I would say. You know, like just given where they're sitting, he's got 12 goal contributions in MLS play right now. And he's just a guy who changes games. And like we've seen it up close and personal. And then when you watch him or watch San Jose, because like, you know, they have the late games usually, so you're able to catch them, which is always fun for me. But like he just stands out and he pops off the pitch every time he's out there. And now you've paired Chicho and Martinez with him up front, and you've given him some real weapons to work with. So he's a wonderful player. They like to get up and down. I remember drafting this team in our little team draft before the season started and being pretty excited about it. I am a Bruce fan. I like Bruce. I think he's cool. He's a soccer guy. I just think he's like, that's all he does. I like that about him a lot. So this is a dangerous club, man, but like they're going to get up and down. They're going to play. We're going to be able to score on them and have some opportunities as well. And I think even given the fact that, we're as bad as it gets in the league at scoring goals, you're going to get opportunities in this matchup and you're going to be able to find some ways to score some goals versus this team because that's just how they play. And they're not really worried about like giving up goals because they're going to go out and get some themselves. So I'm excited for this matchup. I know you want to talk about a couple of their other players here that we just got some intel on.
Yeah. I mean, talking more about the player personnel, the big move over the last 10 days or so was Hernan Lopez, one of their 3 DPs, going out on loan to Nacional down there in, I believe, Argentina. So they'll be down a DP here in this one on Tuesday, but Lopez was also injured for the majority of the season, if I recall correctly. Like, I have the stats here. Yes, so he only played 255 league minutes for them here this year. So they've basically, their resume here in 2025 is kind of already without Lopez in the fold. So I don't think that's going to hinder them too much here on Tuesday night. Kind of looking at the back as well, like Daniel, their keeper, it's a TAM keeper, right? You don't see that a ton in MLS. And if you do have a TAM keeper, he better be pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Daniel fits the profile, man. Like you maybe not be able to tell with how many goals they give up, but what I've seen him do both in some penalty situations, what I've seen him do specifically in one-on-one situations, Brazilian Daniel, very good keeper. And that presents an additional challenge. Like, even if we get those chances, you're dealing with a top half keeper for sure in the league. And I think you could make the argument for top third.
I agree with that. He's just a guy, like you said, it's hard to have all these stats that we just compiled where it's like they gave up 76 goals last year and it was a disaster and they're getting scored on again this year, but he is a good goalkeeper. And another guy that I think is also underrated and doesn't really get the notoriety that he deserves.
Yeah. Well, and to his credit, he was injured all of last year. So that plays a big part in why, right? I think, they're running out Earl Edwards and I don't know if they had, I don't remember who else they had, but it wasn't good, clearly. What's that?
He was out all year?
Yeah. And it sucked because I invested in some Daniel So Rare cards before last year, and then he immediately went out. So that's why I remember that clearly. I also remember our buddy Mike Cragnola drafted him on a best ball team. He went out, so he was without him for half the season. But dude, you just look at sometimes when we talk about shot stopping, we look at post-shot XG, right? On a per 90 basis, he's 5th in the league behind Sean Johnson, Nico Hansen in Colorado, and that is a small sample, right? He's in there for Stefan. Stefan himself is 4th, and then Carlos Coronel, who we talked about when Red Bulls came to town a few weeks ago, he's 3rd. So you see that Daniel, again, I mentioned, I thought top 3rd. Top 5 is a pretty easy argument to make when you're looking at these stats.
Yep, absolutely.
So elsewhere on their roster, right? I mentioned Nick Lima's name earlier.
Hey,
I'm not sure if Nick Lima has been injured or not, or if he's just a little bit dusty. But he has not played a ton for the Quakes here this year. Been in and out of the lineup, only 9 appearances, 373 total minutes with 4 starts. So I don't actually expect to see Lima here on Tuesday night. He's certainly not in form or fully fit if he is getting the start here. So I wouldn't expect that. And we've seen lately kind of a 3-4-3 look, right? Pushing those wing backs up to join the attack and playing Chicho kind of as a left wing across this front line of 3 because he can play that role a lot better than a guy like Joseph Martinez. While both guys are forwards through and through. Arango a little bit better in distribution, a little bit more versatile. Because, of course, you're not moving Christian Espinoza off of that right wing. And kind of similar to us, especially with Lopez not in the fold anymore, this is another team that really doesn't have a true 10. So it's almost it's not exactly the same, but it's almost the Spider-Man pointing gif.
It's really interesting because they've scored obviously a ton of goals and we
Yeah.
haven't scored any, and it's like that is a good comparison because those guys do overlap in Martinez and Chicho for sure. You have a guy in the right wing to distribute and get guys going like Buka and Jesus, I'm thinking of Hernan Lopez now. Espinosa, sorry. So like it is interesting, and like you look at the table where these teams are sitting. We're very similar to this team in regard to the overall quality of the team. In my opinion, we talk about underrated goalkeepers. Obviously, we also believe Bradley is quite underrated as well. So it's like there's just an interesting situation in comparison between these two teams. And now we both find ourselves in this matchup for the U.S. Open Cup while being 2 points separated on the table right now with our game in hand. So like this is a team that's going to be around. We're going to have to play them twice after this for the regular season matchups and everything. So like we're going to be battling this team, and like this is going to be a good way to see where we're at, how we stack up versus them, and also as you mentioned on the last episode, getting that knockout experience going for this team as we try to move into the playoffs is something that I thought that we hadn't really talked about at depth, but I was glad that you brought it up because it is an important factor as you move into the potential postseason for MLS play.
Well, and this is the first quarterfinal of any kind for San Jose in the last 5 years. So their fans are, it seems like equally as pumped as our fan base to be making it this far, even if it's a somewhat depleted Open Cup, right? Not the entire MLS not participating this year, but their fans are also very high on this midfielder that I want to talk about a little bit more, Bo LaRue. And you can see him on that supplemental roster if you're watching here on the YouTube. Someone that we've certainly seen in the box score, but I think we've watched less San Jose than I thought we had, in those late night matches that we catch when we come back from the queue, because I had not really registered how good this Bo LaRue kid has been for them. He was the 42nd overall pick in the 2024 Super Draft. So not this past draft, but the draft where we took Jimmy Farkalin at the top of the second round. So he was taken 11 picks behind Jimmy and spent his last season with the Town in Next Pro. But he signed with their first team the day before this season, and in that season opener was a surprise starter and he has not looked back. LaRue, 18 starts in his 21 appearances, 4 goals, 4 assists for the first team, playing in that midfield kind of next to Ian Harkes. He has formed a nice partnership with Harkes there. Look, man, to put that 4 goals, 4 assists number into context, at the Next Pro level, LaRue, in his first season with the club, 4 goals, no assists in 22 appearances. So, like, this kid is producing. Part of that is being out there with this team that is going forward so aggressively and scoring so much. But he's contributing to that, man. Like, he had goal of the match day week before last in the Cali Classico against the Galaxy. Like, this kid had goal of the match day in MLS in the San Jose, their biggest rivalry against the Galaxy, right? That is the historical California rivalry, not El Tráfico there, which has popped up over the last decade. And on top of that, man, this, I guess, 2 things for those watching on the YouTube, and we can illustrate it audibly here. Yeah, you hear E's little whoo there, right? Bo LaRue's FB Ref scouting report, right? This gives you a percentile ranking amongst positional peers, and this one, right, in the men's next 14 competitions around the world. This is a 1,500-minute sample. Bo LaRue, top 7% in goals, non-penalty XG, shots total, top 10 percentile, non-penalty XG, plus expected assists, right? You see it on the screen here. It's all green and dark green, right?
Yeah.
And like this type of player profile for somebody you got with the 42nd overall selection, these guys, again, they are few and far between in the MLS Super Draft, but they do exist. And these are the types of gold mines that you just hope and pray that at some point your favorite team uncovers a player like this. The cherry on top of this, on top of this Bo LaRue story, not only did he play at San Jose State University, the kid grew up in San Jose. This is awesome, man.
Yeah,
I just hope he doesn't hurt us on Tuesday.
This is definitely a storybook kind of tale going on right here. And as you mentioned, these guys do exist. And like, we've been around this draft for in the perspective of the types of drafts that we get into and the analysis and the things that we look at in regards to NBA when we're doing NFL and everything like that. But it's just so interesting to me that once or twice every year, something like this just happens. Like there's a guy in the second round, he just pops. And like, I don't know if it's just the player profile or if it's more so the fit and the situation, because I do absolutely think that his numbers are being buoyed by the fact that this team has 41 goals on the season. But he's contributing, as you mentioned. He's part of that. He has contributed 8 times to those 41 goals. So like, this is an interesting story, and I also hope that he doesn't hurt us, because it just feels a little bit worse when we see what we've been able to get out of the draft and how nothing has really materialized in that regard. And then you see them land this kid who was right under their nose, like the whole time that they're there. So this is cool, but also not so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Not so cool for us. But a cool story nonetheless. I mean, I don't know if I have anything else to add to the San Jose portion right here. I guess my mind was wandering to second rounders and thinking about how the best basketball player in the world, at least for now, was the 41st overall pick in the NBA draft once upon a time, with Nikola Jokic there for the uneducated. So anything else for you on the San Jose side of things?
I'm not going to take that bait, so no. That's bait. That's bait right there, boys. What's that, Mad Max? That's bait.
That's bait. All right, well, let's talk about us here, E. And we did get, and again, these comments, I assume this has not changed, but these comments were made before the postponement on Saturday. At Thursday's media availability, Coach Estevez said that the team will travel to San Jose on Monday, and then after the match on Tuesday, we'll stay the night in San Jose. Try to keep those sleep patterns as sane as possible, as smooth as possible here, right? Because that match is going to be over around 11:30 Central Time on Tuesday night, and we turn around and have the Revs coming in on Saturday. But I think what surely has changed, at least a little bit here, right, is the plans from a lineup perspective, where now we have fresh legs. We did not play. And so, right, I brought up the potential for maybe John, like I didn't want John Gallagher to start in that Saturday match because of what was coming here, right? There are differences to the game. This is a knockout competition. If we are tied after 90 minutes, extra half hour. If you're tied after the 120, penalty shootout, right? There's also changes to the bench. You get 7 bench guys instead of 9. So we have a trimmed down bench, a potentially longer match, potentially 2 hours to go here against the chaos of San Jose. Again, if you're taking a small positive in the vacuum of Austin FC out of the postponement on Saturday, this is certainly one of them, that we have fresh legs.
Absolutely. And it does change our game plan, in my opinion. I was right there with you that we wanted to keep Johnny as fresh as possible for this matchup that was, after the LAFC game, which we would have had. But again, I just don't know if there's too many places to tinker with this lineup, and looking at it, it's still, who are you playing at left wing? Where are we going? What are we going with on that side of the field there? And, I think I want it to be Mirtu. I do. I think that's where I want to end up with this. And that takes Johnny out of this lineup. But again, it's not something I feel bad about, like, at all. Like, this is a good problem to have, where we have 3 guys that we feel pretty good about on that left side of the pitch. And then outside of that, man, you're just ready to go with your midfield. That seems locked into me. And you're just gonna have to be ready for a long onslaught of high-paced soccer attacking style from San Jose. They're going to keep coming at you all night long. So it's going to be a bit of a test of wills, in my opinion. Obviously, we know our defense, our style. We don't really want to get into a run and gun kind of game with anyone, but they're going to want to do that to us. So, like, being able to dictate pace here is going to be a big thing for me.
Yeah, and I think, going back to what you said, like, it's a good problem to have on the left wing there with all the guys we think we feel fine with starting in that spot. relative to our depth of the past. It's not a good problem that none of those guys are like firing offensively right now. Like none of them are playing well
for sure.
In terms of going forward. But another thing that is, I think, very important in this scenario, remember what happened in the 90th minute against Houston at home in the round of 16 match. Julio Cascante, red card. Julio Cascante, suspended on Tuesday. So with a shortened bench and no Cascante, I don't think you use because you get 6 spots essentially because you're bringing Cleveland, right? Yep. You got to have a backup keeper on the bench.
Yep.
Are we using one of those 6 spots on an FCito center back? I don't think so.
I also don't think so. That is interesting. I forgot about the Julio situation. So yeah, you're just telling BHI and Sfati that whatever comes your way, you're going for 120 if that's what it comes down to. Yeah, because like again, no Nico Van Ryn now. Are you using Gomez? That would be his last call up.
Well, it's not. It wouldn't be a call up. I think we can just register it because it's a different competition. Yeah.
Word. And then if you only get 7 bench spots and you just used your first 2 on Gomez and Cleveland, that's not great.
Yeah,
that's not tight.
I think it's no knock to those guys. It's just the reality of our situation.
I mean, like absolutely. Like,
when I don't have much concern with Heinz Ike being able to go 2 hours here. Spot talk again. It's just a threshold we haven't seen him push to. He's got 90 minutes down fit at this point. He's fine with that.
I am much less concerned about spot talk endurance stuff at this point after seeing him this year in comparison to last year in particular. Like last year we saw him plenty of times like huffing and puffing and really
even in April, dude. I remember that Houston match, right? Like at the end on the road where him and I forget who else were just like doubled over with like 15 minutes to go. We were like out of subs. It was like Jesus Christ. I think you're like break glass guys, right? Like you could slot Biru in and just bring Kolmanic in behind him. We've heard Nico say before when we were shorthanded and we had Biru start that one. I don't remember what match Biru started at center back, but he did it at one point this season. He also mentioned Ilie could play spot minutes at center back. So I think Biru/Ilie is your break glass options there, but I just got my fingers crossed that our 2 kind of stalwarts at the position this season are perfectly fine. Don't get tossed, don't get hurt, knock on all the wood. So, and I don't think we see CJ on this bench. In the past, I would have maybe said Kolmanic was a guy that gets left off. With no Julio, I think you gotta have Kolmanic.
I do think you do. So and then how else are you filling it out? Hot Air, Duber.
Well, Hot Air's definitely there. Johnny's definitely there. Okay, so Johnny, Hot Air. I think Rubio. I think that's Rubio. 3. Kolmanic is 4. Ilie is 5. And then there's one more spot plus Cleveland.
Yeah, that's interesting. That Julio, that is a wrench because they're definitely going to be coming. Like they're going to be going up and down. This is going to be a fast-paced game here. Man.
Well, and okay, so the other listeners are screaming at us right now in their cars or wherever they're listening. Taylor. Yeah.
He's a new guy, he's
yeah, I mean, well, and like, fuck, man, like, I will say this, and continuing our Ilie reckless speculation saga, not adding speculation here, just adding further notes that like Vamos Verde, the part 2 Ilie interview came out. Every time I hear this man speak, I love him even more. And like, I want him around. So like, dude,
you don't.
Yes, I do.
You want him to retire.
No, man, we need that guy around, man.
I agree. I know.
I want, and so you also learn in that part 2 that he's already got, I think, a B coaching license. So like he could maybe make that fucking coaching move just right here in Austin. But to get back to a modicum of sincerity here, Duber-Sarski versus Ilie. The way we've watched Ilie lately, again, I think Ilie is probably the heavy favorite, but I don't think it's done and dusted, that he would be the option over Duber. Duber came in against Seattle over it.
Yep.
So again, I think that's the only place I would argue any of those sub spots. But I do think it's very, very likely that Ilie would be that seventh and final spot.
Or particularly if we're getting some hints that he might be a emergency center back option. That makes him the heavy favorite, because like
he could start, dude. Like we were joking about it.
Yeah,
he could.
Sure. Absolutely. And like I want to, BV has been fantastic in the Open Cup. He's been absolutely wonderful in the Open Cup, and I think we're going to need a good game out of him, because we're going to have to score some goals in this game. And like he's going to get those opportunities. We're going to be able to push the ball out wide with Buka on the right, and then if Mirtu's fired on that left, they still got to figure this thing out over there. But like BV is where I'm looking at on the offensive side of the ball, because he's going to have opportunities one-on-one, particularly if they're in that 3-back. So like there's going to be space for him. And like with how much they ask those wing backs to do to get up and down the field to push that attack, you're going to have chances. So I'm looking at him right now. And like, hopefully, again, I think that you kind of baked in that strategy to me where you're trying to get some free kicks outside of the penalty box and see what he can do with it, Yeah. So that's going to require some effort from Owen, in my opinion. We're like on the ball, in control in the middle of the pitch, finding guys out wide and distributing. But BV's the guy that I'm really looking at here, because he has carried us in the Open Cup thus far.
I just want to clarify my stance on free kicks. I do prefer free kicks to be won inside the box. I'll take a penalty kick, but just make sure we got it straight. And I do think, I hear the Mooch Man waking up on your end, so we can wrap up the preview. But if we didn't mention it already, important to note that Austin FC's injury report coming into the LAFC match was clean. Mirtu Izuni available for selection on Saturday before that postponement. So I expect him to start here. While I do think there was some rightful, questions surrounding that on Saturday. So I guess one thing left to do here, man. How much is Austin FC winning by to advance in the Open Cup on Tuesday?
Hey, let's go. Look, we're going to have to score goals. They're going to score goals on us, in my opinion. So I don't think I want to be as like confident as saying a 3-2 here. So I'll go 2-2, and you're going to have to win in PKs.
Okay. Yeah,
although we've seen so many goals late, like in this competition. This is ridiculous how many goals have come in stoppage time. And what a weird thing to have games that can go 120 minutes and give people less subs.
Yeah.
Like what?
Less of a bench.
Yeah. That's weird.
Antiquated rules. I was dancing around the 2-2 myself, because I'm of the same mind where it's like, are we shutting out the team that has 41 goals on the year?
Yeah.
I believe in our defense wholeheartedly. I don't know if I believe that much. And Chicho has been a thorn in our side. Yeah, at their place. But I also think we're going to be able to score in this one, right? Despite the shutout loss against Seattle. We saw this team put up 4 of our 30% of our goals came in an 8-day span. I'm going to go 2-1, a little bit more of a rosier outlook here. We don't get the clean sheet, but we put 2 past them, and the defense holds strong. I would love to get this shit done in 90 minutes on Tuesday, but we don't care how you get it done, boys. Just survive in advance. Come on down to Farmer Field where the champions play. Get ready for the game. It's last business day. Last business day here on episode 238 of the North End podcast. You got a quick LAFC 2 recap to get through. But first, I did see on Instagram here on Sunday morning, Nico Van Rijn has already landed with a new club in the Spanish 3rd division. So back home, got a new place to continue his career. So best of luck to Van Rijn going forward. Anything you want to say there?
Peace.
All right. Well, the one thing I did not remember, because we haven't seen him until these last couple weeks here, Jules Barry is a center back. So Jules Barry gets the start. And also this is maybe a little maybe not off topic, but just like silly. Maybe Jules Berry is the fucking dude, and Van Ryn was
Hey,
like, "I'm not gonna play, so I'm up out of here."
all right. I like that
Some
theory.
wishful thinking there. We did get Peter Grogan back in up top, and I also should say, you and I, we were hanging on Friday during this match
Mm-hmm.
on the 4th, so we got to watch this one. Grogan back in up top. Alistue back to the midfield, and with CJ down with the second team plan on the left, Jimmy healthy on the right. Both Micah Burton and Irvin Torres come off the bench. So, like, I don't love that. But I felt all right once this one was over. I mentioned Barry in Van Ryn's former spot there next to Antonio Gomez. Daniel Chesla stayed at left back, even though Ruben Bonachera available off the bench once again. And we got things started really early here, man. In the 6th minute, Austin playing out of the back. This goal was great. Barry hits Jaka Barrow in the defensive half. Barrow turns on a dime, passes it right up the middle, right up the gut to Jorge Alistue, and Austin off and running. Jorge slides it out to Jimmy on the right. Riley Thomas underlaps him as they arrive into the penalty area. Jimmy slips him through towards the end line, and then Riley pulls it back right to the top of the 6. CJ beats the LAFC defender to the ball to bang it home for the opening goal. I thought in the moment, I thought it might have been an own goal, but upon the replay, man, you see CJ stick out his boot, get to it first. You love to see it.
Absolutely love to see it. And when you have those four, and like I don't want to take anything away from Micah or Irvin or anything like that, but when you're attacking four is CJ, Grogan, Alistue, and Jimmy, man, like that's formidable. And like no knock to those to Micah or Irvin because Alistue's been balling, man. Like he just flat out been playing better than those dudes right now. So like
it's a more mature group, right? Like those four up front.
Yeah, they're older for sure. And it's like, when Grogan kind of had I'm assuming he was in the doghouse a little bit after his red card, trying to work his way back into the lineup. But the fact that you can just take Alistue and put him up at the striker position where he had been playing, but then also just slot him back into this little 10 kind of midfield spot. That's awesome.
22nd minute, Austin again playing it out of the back here, starting with a goal kick. Matriculate up the field, crossing midfield down the left side with CJ and Chesla, and then they work it all the way back to the right. A quick flurry of passes from Riley Thomas to Jaka Barrow to Jorge Alistue, breaks a line, and then Jorge turns, immediately plays Peter Grogan through down that right side of the 18. And Grogan beats his man to this ball, cracks it on net, and sneaks it inside the back post, man. 2-0 lead. That was an 11-pass sequence starting from that goal kick, which was Barry to Farah in net, started the goal kick to the keeper. 11-pass sequence, 34 seconds to go from that kick to putting it in the back of the net. Beautiful, beautiful football right there from the second team. We've been waiting for this, dude. We saw it first half of the opener against Colorado, and it returned on Friday night to Palmer Field.
Yeah, this team is firing right now. They're really hitting on all cylinders. So that's a beautiful encapsulation of how soccer is meant to be played and why people call it the beautiful game. 11 passes, like that's awesome.
Mm-hmm. And it gets even better. Slight slip up in the 53rd minute. Jules Berry comes in just a touch late on Walters, the right winger there for LAFC too, as Walters had entered the box on a through ball. Penalty given, I think correctly there. Just mistimed it. And Barry hasn't been playing for many months. So, again, maybe a little bit rusty in that moment. That PK is converted, and it's 2-1. 2 minutes later, you get a yellow card to Jaka Barrow, and then the first subs for Austin come in the 57th, where you get Vlad Danchutu and Micah Burton in for Peter Grogan and Jimmy Farcarlin. 10 minutes later in the 67th, the return of Ruben Bonachera. Irvin Torres also comes on. Those guys replace Barry and Alistue. So Ruben slides Daniel Chesla into that center back position. And the first possession after that second pair of subs, Austin with another lengthy bout of possession here in the LAFC half. And leading up to this chance, Ruben plays CJ over the top down the left. And I thought, just kind of as an aside, as a takeaway on the night, I think this is something that we will see get better as a guy like Daniel Chesla plays more with a guy like CJ Fodre down the left side. A couple moments of miscommunication between those two guys through the first 60 plus. In this moment, Ruben, boop, right over the top to CJ. CJ goes to get it, puts it across the face of net from that left side. And then Irvin Torres just stepped on the pitch, slides in to get the first touch in the sixth, sneaks it by the keeper, 2-goal lead, reinstated. And you get the impact right away from both Ruben and Irvin, who stepped on the pitch 60 seconds earlier. You love to see that.
Love to see that.
75th minute, as you start to hear fireworks popping off in the surrounding neighborhood, LAFC 2 has a corner kick here, and it goes over the scrum in the Austin 18, and Austin able to clear it long, back into the LAFC half. They've got one defender back there trying to corral this, and as he turns on the ball, he slips down. Micah Burton is rushing him, pounces, takes it in 1-on-1 with the keeper, dribbles around the keeper as he enters the 18, slots it home into the empty net for the fourth goal. The party is on. 4th of July, avoided the rain for the 2 hours. I think there was thunder after the game, thunder before the game, but we got it in, the 4-1 win. And you see what that does to the table here now, E. Austin FC 2 with 15 matches played, now into 6th place in the Western Conference of MLS Next Pro on 24 points. That's tied for 4th. So we are behind on the wins tiebreaker between us, Colorado, and Vancouver, 4th, 5th, 6th. But we have a game in hand on both of those teams. We also have a game in hand on 2nd and 3rd. I thought I was sharing this on the screen. My bad. There's the table for you, everybody watching on the YouTube and E, so you don't have to look on your second screen. With the 4-1 victory, Austin FC 2 is now back in the black in terms of goal differential, 17-4, 16 against. The 16 goals conceded remain the best in the Western Conference here. I don't know what there's to say outside of this team is playing fantastic right now. That is 11 points from their last 4 matches. And I want to highlight Charlie Farah in net because, of course, soccer is not an individualistic sport. Like, you can really raise the level of a team with one guy in the right spot, but you can't just give the credit to one guy as a blanket there. But since Charlie began or took over the starting job, which was against SKC2 following the road loss at Dynados. That was the match where Stephen Cleveland started, and we gave up 2 goals in the 2-1 loss. Since then, Charlie has started 9 games. We have only conceded 6 goals in that time. Austin FC 2 has 19 points from those 9 games. I mean, dude, 19 points alone would put you 3 points back of the playoffs right now. Yeah. We had only 5 points before that. Like, things have, and again, CJ has played more minutes. Jimmy has got healthy. Jorge got healthy, right? We had guys absent on the back line for call-ups. All of those things contribute to the up and down nature of this season so far for Austin FC 2. But even in this game alone, all 5 shots on target from open play, saved by Charlie. Yep. He denied 3 big chances for LAFC 2. He has been playing awesome. It is, to me, no longer a hot hand, right? We saw last year, Alstrup, Cervantes. Who's playing better in the moment? That's who's going to get the start. There didn't seem to be much rhyme or reason to it in 2024. I think Charlie has taken this job and he's just running with it. I don't think this is a competition at the moment. And, I hope he doesn't, don't listen to this, Charlie, and get a big head, right? Like, we're not anointing shit here, but he's been playing outstanding. And I just wanted to highlight how good the team has been since he took over.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've been saying that for the past 3 games. It's just like, I don't know what it is. And I'm not saying it's just him. I'm not saying that this was Alstrup's fault that the team wasn't humming. Obviously, we weren't scoring goals. Alstrup doesn't really impact that at all. But, like, it was quick from when he showed up here and we heard about him to when he got his first start in the net, and it has not looked back ever since that moment. So absolutely want him to get his flowers here because he's been wonderful. And we've found ways to also win or not win, but get the secondary point in those shootouts because he's been great at in the net here. So, like, I am very, very happy from what I've seen from Charlie, and like just a big shout out to him. And this team's really firing right now. Like you mentioned, you're sitting 6th right now. You're tied with Colorado and Vancouver, game in hand on both of those guys. So like this is exciting to see, because it's been such a weird. You have that blistering half to start the season.
Yeah.
And then just this drought of anything, any semblance that looked like a cohesive team that was going to be able to make some noise. And now, as you mentioned, 11 points from the last 4 games, or correct? Yeah. So like this has been really great to see, and I hope they're able to continue this.
Yeah, fuck, man. It's 8 of our 17 goals on the season have come in a 135-minute span, right? That first half of the opener, and then it's Friday night. And to your point about Charlie and the shootouts, man, we've been in 4 shootouts in his 9 games. We've won 3 of them.
Yeah.
That's about the only knock. And that was a full team knock in that game, if I recall correctly. We lost the extra point to Dynados at home about a month ago. That's like the only blemish. And again, that is a game. If I'm recalling that correctly, you absolutely should have won. So congrats to Charlie. Congrats to the second team on their recent form. And look, onwards and upwards, man. We will have the preview for their next match on Wednesday's episode. And we'll close it out here, E, with a little bit of the nonsense, the Week 22 picks. Unfortunately, the underdog entry comes up 1 Evander shot on target short. And look, I apologize to everybody who tails these, because I would have gladly given up the Hani Mukhtar second shot on target for our best ball team, because working in best ball into this, we don't have the official scores up yet. There's still Columbus and Seattle here on Sunday afternoon to be played. But we do know from doing some manual math here this morning that if Hani Mukhtar doesn't get that stoppage time penalty goal down a man, that we would be in first here coming into this next week. So we'll have our best ball update on Wednesday's episode. The underdog entry misses by 1 Evander shot on target. And the way the picks went, man, we are sitting currently plus 1.2 units at the books. Diego Rossi goal prop plus 235 going off here on Sunday. So we have locked in at least 0.2 units to the good. We take all profits, and we celebrate all profits. But come on, Diego, give us a goal here tonight.
Hey, we'll take it.
Anything else for you here before we shut it down?
Oh, no.
All right, everybody. We appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here on episode 238 of the North End Podcast. We will be back on Wednesday recapping Austin FC's U.S. Open Cup quarterfinal match against San Jose Earthquakes. Again, that is 9:30 Central on Tuesday night. Recapping that match, previewing the first team's return to Q2 Stadium against the New England Revolution next weekend, previewing the second team's next match, and of course talking about everything that happens in the Austin FC universe between now and then. Enjoy the beginning of your week, everybody. We will do the same, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday for another episode. Until then, he's E, and I'm Zach. Vamos Austin FC, everybody. Goodbye.